Every single day, I talk to business owners who want to exit or sell their companies, and it never ceases to amaze me how many people are totally unprepared to sell their business and don't understand what makes a business sellable and what makes a business more valuable. Hopefully, this video can help show you exactly what factors drive up a company's valuation and help position a business for a better exit. My name's Matt Bodnar. I'm a private equity investor, Goldman Sachs alum, Forbes 30 Under 30 alum. I've done more than $100 million worth of deals, and my existing companies do more than $100 million in annual revenue. One of the most important things to understand is that the best time to prepare your company for sale is 2 or 3 years before you want to sell it. If you sit down today and said, hey, I'm ready to sell my business right now, you're probably behind the 8 ball in terms of preparing that business for exit. There's lots of factors that can go into driving a successful exit, but preparation and runway is hugely impactful in terms of giving you the time needed to make changes to the business to make it more marketable and more valuable. There are lots of different exit strategies when you think about selling your business. One of the first questions you have to ask and answer for yourself is, what do you want to accomplish and where are you going? Because a lot of times, if you can own or operate or hold the business, you may not even need to sell it at all. And evaluating that path of keeping the company should always be a consideration when you evaluate sale, because at least you know what your BATNA is, your best alternative to a negotiated agreement. Your BATNA is your backup plan. And if holding the company is your backup plan, sometimes that's not the worst outcome if you plan for it the right way. The next thing to think about would be what's called a debt recap. Instead of selling the business outright, oftentimes the business has no debt on it. You can go take out a loan for maybe not all of the proceeds you would get if you sold the business, but for 2 or 3 times the earnings of the company, and take those all as a tax-free loan proceed, distribute it out to the ownership of the business, which would be you or your partners, and then you can go back and operate the company and pay the loan off over the next few years. That's called a dividend recap or a debt recapitalization. It's an alternative, again, to outright sale of the company. Another strategy to think about or understand would be a minority recap. This is where you sell less than 50% of the business. There are pros and cons to doing this. Oftentimes, this can help you take some chips off the table, de-risk the company, and bring in outside partners who might be able to help you scale the business or better position it for growth. Another strategy is a majority recap. This would be bringing in a partner that's greater than 50% of the business. This would have a similar outcome or thesis to a minority recap, except you'd be taking more chips off the table and giving up control, but keeping some ownership for a second bite at the apple, which can often be more valuable than what you got the first time around selling. The last strategy, which is the most obvious and the one that people think about, is a full sale of the business. Sometimes it's necessary to pursue that as a path, but it's worth considering some of the other alternatives if you're really thinking about exiting or selling the business. And so I wanted you to at least understand that those are a few different paths or opportunities if you're thinking about exiting.
Let's talk about a few of the things you can do to prepare your business for sale. And as I said earlier, the earlier you do this, the better off you're gonna be. Sometimes having 18, 24, even 36 months of runway helps you implement a lot of these changes that can have a huge impact down the road. If we think about the legal structure of the business, there's a couple different considerations you want to look into. One is whether or not you want to sell the assets of the company or whether you want to sell the stock. And sometimes the buyer is going to determine that, but you may have pros and cons to each of those strategies depending on what goal you're trying to achieve. It may make sense to carve out or not sell parts of the business. For example, if you have a company that owns a bunch of different restaurants, you may want to sell some of the restaurants and keep some of the other locations. You may want to own the IP and franchise that or license that to your operating companies and sell the operations and keep the intellectual property and the royalty stream. Or you may want to keep the operating businesses and sell the royalty company, right? There's lots of different ways you can do that with lots of different businesses, but being really thoughtful about having that legal structure set up in the first place can unlock a lot of value. We had a large sale of a restaurant company that I was an investor in many years ago, where we split all of the real estate into a new holding company, and we put brand new 20-year leases in place with all of our locations, and then we sold the operating company, the restaurants themselves, to a private equity firm, and we kept all the real estate. Now, if we had kept that real estate in the operating business, we may not have gotten full market value for it. And so we were able to maximize our returns by carving out the real estate and just selling the operating business. There's lots of different ways you can structure this, but being really thoughtful about structure can help you harness or unlock value or keep assets you may not want to sell if you're going to sell the bulk or a portion of the business. Another major value driver is how involved you as the owner of the company are in the business's operations. The sooner you can scale yourself out of the business, the sooner you can effectively fire yourself from being the president or the CEO or the general manager of that company, the more value you're going to unlock. If you think about a small business that's doing a couple $100,000 a year of revenue, that's largely driven by the founder, the owner operator of the company, that business is not worth very much because it's not really a company, it's just a job with a revenue stream that's attached to it. If you're in those shoes, if you step away from the business, revenue basically drops to zero over a very short time horizon, or you don't have any opportunity or ability to fulfill and execute without you running the company. You don't want to be in that situation if you're trying to sell your business. You're going to be much better positioned for a sale if the business operates entirely without you. The more you can spend time and energy to build that infrastructure, to develop a management team, to put in place the systems to hire, recruit, and retain quality employees at all levels of the organization, and build systems, processes, SOPs, operating playbooks, and checklists, all of those things go a really long way to creating what's called transferable value so that the buyer of the business can buy the business and not have to bring you along with it. If the business is entirely dependent on you, then you're going to get stuck either coming with a company or having a largely earnout or deferred compensation driven sales structure where the vast majority of your upside comes from you having those golden handcuffs and continuing to work in the business sometimes for years on end. Those are two big value drivers that you really want to think about. And the more runway you have to implement those things into your business, the much better time you're going to have ultimately taking the company to market to sell it.
There are tons of factors, both controllable and non-controllable, that can impact the sale of your business. Some of the external factors would be things like supply and demand, existing market conditions, prevailing interest rates, right? We've seen the impact of interest rates on business transactions over the last couple years, and it's a pretty substantial change. Availability of debt capital, investor appetite, and existing economic conditions. Those are all economic factors that can substantially impact a company's valuation. If you think about software businesses a few years ago, they were trading for astronomical sums and selling for huge 8-10 times revenue multiples. After the great markdown, they're trading at substantially more grounded prices. So market external timing considerations can have a huge impact on how many chips you can take off the table. In fact, I own a software business and we were under LOI to sell to a publicly traded SaaS business. The LOI got pulled when the company that was buying us lost 90% of their market value overnight, basically, in the great markdown. So external market conditions can have a huge impact on your company's valuation and your ability to exit. There's also lots of internal controllable considerations within your business that can impact your exit strategy and the viability of exiting and ultimately the valuation of the company. The existing strength of the management team, whether there's a bench of talent, whether the business is reliant on you as the owner, and how robust the systems and processes are. The company's financial reporting and statements can have a big impact. Are the financials audited? Are they clean and nicely buttoned up? Or are they messy and disjointed? That can have a large impact on a buyer's willingness or interest in pursuing the company, or can penalize the business from a valuation standpoint pretty substantially. The company's growth history and growth rate. Growth rate can have a huge impact on expanding the company's exit valuation and multiple versus a company with a low growth rate might get penalized on a valuation, or if a company is even declining, that can be even more punitive from a valuation standpoint. Customers can have a huge impact on your ability to sell your business. High customer concentration is a deal killer and a major challenge point for a lot of buyers that will disqualify huge universes of potential buyers depending on how concentrated the business is to a single customer. Customer satisfaction and net promoter scores can also have a big impact on a company's valuation, and buyers want to understand what the customers think and feel about the business. Your sale process itself can also have a huge impact on selling the company and ultimately impact the valuation. Whether or not you decide to run the sale process yourself, whether you hire an advisor, if it's competitive or not, if it's a one-on-one negotiation, if the buyer approaches you, how well the information is presented and documented, all of these factors can have a huge impact on driving not only the ultimate outcome and valuation, but also the terms of the deal. The more competitive the deal dynamic, typically the better terms and better valuation you get as the seller of a business. One of the things you need to figure out is who's the right buyer for your business. There's two different types of buyers. You have financial buyers, which are typically investors or private equity groups that are not in your industry. The alternative are what are called strategic buyers. Strategic buyers are people who are in your industry that are buying the business not just from an economic standpoint, but also because there's some other strategic value or synergy that makes the company even more valuable to them or uniquely valuable to them. What are the pros and cons of each? A financial buyer typically can't pay as much as a strategic buyer, oftentimes because they don't have access to some of those synergies that a strategic buyer may have. A financial buyer is much more likely to keep the existing employees, the existing business name, and the things that made that business unique as part of their investment strategy, whereas a strategic buyer is often looking to change, maybe move some employees out, and merge the company into their brand. Those crossovers may not be exact, but there's pros and cons to each. Are you looking to maximize the economic upside, or is the sale more about preserving legacy and taking care of the people who are part of the business? Those are some of the considerations you have to think about as you're looking for strategic buyers and financial buyers. One of the other things you need to be thoughtful of is whether or not a strategic buyer, especially a competitor, might be trying to garner competitive information from your business by looking at a possible acquisition. It's something that you don't necessarily have the risk of when you're selling to a financial buyer. And so there's some people that are much more comfortable selling to financial buyers.
There are risks and rewards to different sales strategies. You need to evaluate whether you want to do something that's very specific, highly targeted, and only going after a select few specific buyers, or whether you want to have a public open market auction. An open market auction may get you ultimately the highest price, but depending on the business you're in, it risks competitors, employees, or other people in the marketplace knowing that your business is for sale. It can distract the management team, it can have confidential information potentially leak out into the market, and so there's meaningful downsides to pursuing that strategy. However, having the largest pool of potential buyers will drive the valuation up, improve the terms that you're going to get, and ultimately result in what could likely be the largest economic upside of a sale. The alternative side of the coin is looking at a very private, discreet, one-on-one sale process where you have specific conversations either with a single buyer or with a handful of buyers that you have relationships with. The pros of doing this is that it helps you keep things discreet and confidential. It helps keep the management team from getting roped in or distracted. It reduces the risk that confidential information is going to get out there in the market, but it also risks not getting as high of a valuation or not getting deal terms that are as compelling. So there's pros and cons to each of those, and that's a big thing you need to evaluate when you're thinking about a sale. When selling your business, you also want to think about building the right deal team. These are the advisors that you surround yourself with that fill key roles in any sale process. These can include things like your M&A or transactional attorney, your tax attorney to help with the tax consequences of the sale, your accountants or CPAs to evaluate some of the economics or help present or prepare the information about the company, a wealth advisor or a financial advisor to help think about what you're going to do with the cash flows or sale proceeds from the sale, and a broker, investment banker, or exit advisor of some kind to potentially help you not only navigate due diligence and the transaction, but also to help you navigate the sale process, position the company as best you can, and ultimately get the most sale price. Each of those advisors come with a cost and a price tag, but a lot of times having the right people in your corner can be a big difference maker in terms of driving exit value and a key piece of successful exit planning.
These are some of the biggest factors to think about if you're thinking about selling your company, and some of the largest drivers of successful versus unsuccessful exits. As you think about selling your company or preparing it for exit, remember, the best time to start is years before you're ready to sell. If you enjoyed this video, check out some of my other videos, especially my video on valuation, which will be hugely helpful as you think about more granularly what the real drivers of a company's value are. And that video can help you get a sense of what your company's value is today. I'd love to hear from you in the comments what you thought about this video, what your questions, concerns, or fears might be around the exit process, and whether or not this was helpful as you think about positioning your company for sale.